Welcome back. Scientists say the world continues to spew out more greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, like carbon dioxide gas or CO2. In fact, a new report by the Global Carbon Project says CO2 emissions rose more than 2% in 2012 compared with the year before. So how do we reduce those emissions? Is there a way to capture and store them so that they don't impact the environment? Joining us now is Dr. Michael MacCracken. He is the chief scientist for climate change programs with the Climate Institute here in the United States. Dr. MacCracken, thanks for coming into the heat. Capturing CO2 emissions. This has been quite the thing people have been talking about now, it seems like, for most recent years. How easy is it?
Well, by far the easiest thing is to not put the emissions out in the first place. And there are a lot of ways to do that. So you want to do everything you can to reduce what you put in the atmosphere, because once you take that carbon that's relatively concentrated and disperse it in the atmosphere, it's very hard to bring it back together and catch it and put it underground. And you sort of need as big an industry to try and do that as you have created to put it out. So that can make it quite expensive.
There's been a lot of discussion, though, recently about actually retrofitting coal plants and the work that goes into it. In fact, I believe there's an MIT study that said once you retrofit, it's enormously expensive. And then it reduces the actual output of the electricity by about 40%, which of course is going to drive up costs for people. Is that some of the complaints that you hear about it when you start talking about these sorts of things?
Yeah, well, so you have a coal plant and you're putting out. If you what you're talking about there is capturing it right before it spreads completely out into the atmosphere. And yeah, that takes 30 to 40% of the energy of the power plant if you're going to do it. There may be some more clever ways to do it. Then the other capture that they talk about is, oh, well, once it's dispersed, we'll try and bring it all back together and bury it somewhere. Now, vegetation does that. If you can grow more trees, then nature will grow more trees and you'll have more on the ground. But there's just not enough room to grow more forest to take up all the carbon that we're putting into the atmosphere. So what we have to do is stop putting it out, which means go to some other energy source, and get down to the really minimum we have to use. You need concentrated energy like jet fuel to get around and run a transportation system. But a lot of the things we do on the ground, we can do other ways. You can do by electricity powered by renewables or other things like that. So,
what about carbon trading? We hear about all these different plans, thoughts on how to reduce things. Your thoughts on that?
Well, there's sort of two fundamental approaches. One is to say, well, we'll put permits out. We'll put caps on how much can come out, and we'll let people buy up permits. And then the people will do the most efficient thing. And it means that the least expensive things will get done first. The other way is simply to raise the cost of carbon with a tax, to make fossil fuels more expensive. And then the idea is you will get consumers who will try and do something different. They will change light bulbs in their homes, or they'll add insulation, and they'll do something different. So it gives incentives to consumers, and you hope that industry is there to provide.
There's people talking about Peru, and then they're saying 2015 is when we're really going to see action. First of all, do you agree with that? And then secondly, can you wait a couple of years, given what you see in terms of the issue out there?
When you have an international protocol that's going to have sanctions or something, the natural tendency of countries is to guarantee they will do the least. They don't want to get those sanctions, and so they want a low number. We need to be jumping high. And what happened a few years ago was to say, well, let's get countries aspiring to do something. We want them to aspire to do as much as they can. We just got to have a notion that we're going to do it. We really need a commitment that, look, we're going to try and do it, and we haven't made that commitment.
If you could wave a magic wand and you could change things, what would be the first thing on your list?
Well, I think we try and raise the price of carbon, which means you either have a tax, and the proposal for the tax is not a tax where the government keeps the money, but a tax and then a fee base. That is, you give it back to the people on a per capita basis so that they have some money to use to change what they're doing. So if you knew you were spending a lot on your home for energy and there was a tax on carbon, that would raise the price of the fuel. But if you got some money back, what you would do is go out and get insulation, put insulation around windows, or change light bulbs, or arrange for solar panels. And the new system has sort of a zero money down approach. I didn't take that option, but there are zero money down approaches to try and do that. to help people get over this hurdle and to change what's happening.
We're out of time, but can it be done?
I think it can be if we really work at it, but we're going to see a fair amount more change because there's sort of some momentum from what we've done in the past. But we can do it. The alternative is just unacceptable.
Dr. MacCracken, thanks so much for your time.
Nice to be here.